How much time do you spend researching and remembering quotes and studies?
It's amazing your ability just to be like, I got a quote on it.
I just want to say, like, my Reels feed, my YouTube Shorts feed, back when I had TikTok, that feed was just inundated. Every swipe, it would show you in some like hyper granularized, like, have you seen
and the music in the background?
And the music in the background.
Honestly,
and
man.
It shows your face and you're like, no.
There is a,
and then it shows the guest and it shows you and you go, oh, that quote is so good.
There's a fucking army of Vietnamese repurposers somewhere that we just recorded with Hormozy yesterday. So that one's going to go out soon. And we made a joke at dinner last night, like the Vietnamese repurposers are going to be like winding up their...
Oh, they're going to be so
getting
stoked.
ready for it. Yeah. I don't know. I think remembering concepts and remembering philosophies is hard. And one of the easy ways to do it is to have mantras or little way markers in the ground. And that's one of the reasons that maxims and aphorisms are so useful, because it's not just this sentence, right? It's not just you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt. That's Hormozy's conception for confidence, right? That you need to do the thing. That's what you remember. But what it means is this whole concept that sits outside of it, which is I should focus on doing things and earning my stripes, as opposed to just like shouting at myself about how brilliant I am when I wake up in the morning when I'm naked. Like, that's not the route to do it. I was really embarrassed about my memory when I first started doing personal growth like 8 or 9 years ago, because I was watching a Sam Harris or a Rogan or a Shapiro or a Peterson or whatever, and their recall ability just seemed to be unbelievable. And I would remember reading books and thinking, why can't I recall any of this stuff? But over time, just crushing volumes, like tons and tons and tons of exposure, ends up with the good stuff rising to the surface, and you can't not think about it. Tim Ferriss has this idea called the good shit sticks, and basically it completely relinquishes any need that you feel of having to remember anything. All you remember are the things that you care about. Like, what was the thing that you had to send a screen recording to your friend about? Like, that's the thing. That's the thing that you can't stop thinking about. So just remember that thing and forget all the rest of the stuff. If you're a doctor training for medical school, this doesn't work. Like, you need to know all of this. You can't just be like, I'm only interested in the tongue, and like the rest of the body gets forgotten about. But for personal growth, just allowing that stuff to rise to the surface. But I don't have a Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, Anki flashcard spaced repetition thing for anything that I do. I spend a little bit of time reading, a lot of time listening, a good bit of time talking, and then I write once a week.
So I have this little notebook that I write down some of the most impactful quotes that I've ever heard. And one of them I heard from you, and I think I researched and found where it came from, and it was like a Stanford college professor or something like that. And I'm going to totally butcher this, but I want to hear you say it. Okay. It's have like firm convictions loosely held rather than loose convictions firmly held or something like that. What is that quote?
Strong beliefs loosely held, not loose beliefs strongly held.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most beautiful things. And I think every single person right now listening to this should 100% practice that. I think that is one of the biggest faults currently, at least that's facing society.
Yeah, well, a lot of people will die on a hill for an idea that they don't understand.
Mm-hmm. But how do they know they don't understand it?
It's
how do you become self-aware?
They don't.
But I feel like there's got to be like a point where you could say, I believe in this, but I'm self-aware enough to know that I don't know enough about it. How do people just get this undeniable?
It's way more. It's way more complex to be able to work out that to not just parrot something and then say, oh, I actually don't fully understand this. I should maybe fact check this thing. Think about what we're doing when we absorb ideology or when we absorb a worldview wholesale, right? What we're trying to do is signal our loyalty to the tribe. Trying to say, so an ideological belief is as much a show of fealty to your own side and a threat display to the other as it is anything else. And you can tell this, I call it monothinking. So you can tell how shallow of a thinker somebody is by, first off, how predictable all of their perspectives are if you only know one thing that they believe. And secondly, how many different incidents they explain with the same phenomenon. So if I know your perspective on gun control, and from that I can accurately predict your perspective on abortion and immigration and the Second Amendment and the First Amendment and everything else, global politics, you're not a serious thinker, because all you've done is put this onesie on that is, oh, that's exactly my worldview. Yeah, they'll correlate together. People will tend to lean left or lean right, and a good amount of that's genetically predisposed. And the other thing is, if everything is because of climate change, or everything is because of capitalism, or everything is because of Donald Trump, you're also not a serious thinker, because the demand for answers outstrips your supply for them. So you just retrofit the one answer that you have for one thing across absolutely everything else. But for someone to ask themselves the question, okay, so why do I believe that? Like, why do I think that thing? Well, you don't need to do that. You've already done the show of fealty. You've got acceptance from your own side. And this is why it's so rare to find people that sort of move back and forth left to right. Most people pay an unbelievably high price by doing that. Because if you're all the way to the right, at least you guarantee agreement from one side, or all the way to the left, you guarantee agreement from one side. If you're in the middle, you guarantee disagreement from almost all of both. But ultimately, it's a much harder path.
So of the quotes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Keep them coming.
When I ask for the one that made for you the number one biggest impact, I'm so sorry.
That's
Had
all
to
right.
ask it. Which quote made the biggest impact on you?
From back in the day, there's a book by Robert Wright called Why Buddhism is True. And Khenpo Rinpoche says, ultimately, happiness comes down to the decision of choosing to become aware of our mental afflictions or choosing to be ruled by them. And that, to me, explained why I was so compelled to work out why I am the way I am. That if happiness is choosing to become aware of your mental afflictions or choosing to be ruled by them, the only way out is through that all day long, right? Like, I'll take more of the thing that poisons me until I turn it into a tonic that girdles the world around me. And that's like the common thread in a lot of the different quotes and insights that I have, which is your intuition is probably right about a lot of things, and it gets perverted by other people. It's this great idea called the Abene Paradox. So the Abene Paradox explains how people in a group can have their truth perverted, even though on their own they believe something accurately. So for instance, let's say that you're getting married and you think that I want to be invited to the wedding despite not wanting me there. So you invite me. I accept your invitation to the wedding despite not wanting to go because I think that you want me to attend. Neither of us wanted either of us to be at the wedding together, but both of us end up at the same wedding together because we both thought that that was something that we wanted to do. Same thing goes for North Korea, right? Like, everybody supports the regime, and yet if you were to ask them on their own individually, completely isolated, they all probably have a lot of criticisms, but they're all too scared that somebody else who they don't know also has criticisms is going to call them out about it. And this is how people's intuitions become swayed to one side or another. But dude, like the mantra thing and like the quotes that I love change all the time. Like one of Hormozi's, like, this is what hard feels like. Like, I think about that all the time. This is what hard feels like. Did you think the thing that you wanted to try and achieve was going to be easy? No. Okay. So what's the entry price of trying to achieve this thing? Well, it's hard. Okay. This is what hard feels like. This isn't a bug in the system. This is a fucking feature. Like, you are here to be challenged by things. This is what hard feels like. A couple of Petersons where he talks about be precise in your speech, he says as he misspeaks it. Be precise in your speech is one of the most important things that I've tried to do. That and pay attention to, I don't know whether they made it into the books, but the original 12 Rules for Life was built out of 40 rules that he wrote in a Quora post. And
it was like 120.
I think it's only 44.
We're going to fact check this.
Send it. But anyway, I had 40. I had 40 on my wall. And the two that always stood out to me were be precise in your speech and pay attention, because they seem to be the highest ROI things that I have relied on. Alain de Botton had one that really spoke to me sort of earlier on in my journey. Loneliness is a kind of tax you have to pay to atone for a certain complexity of mind. That basically the more deep of a thinker you are, the fewer people will be like you. ... And that's fine. These things are, they're kind of like, they make it, in my mind, they kind of feel like little holes in a membrane. And they're things that you can remember. And then if you decide to open that up and go down whatever chute, whatever cave that is in there, there's this entire idea that sits below it. But it's reassuring to me, especially as someone who had and still has a lot of uncertainty. Am I doing it right? Can I be doing it right? Can I be doing this better? Is this the best way that I could do it? those things are little way markers in the ground that help to sort of remind me that things are going well.